Hi there, I'm Jo from Women's Fitness Magazine, and today you find me super excited because I'm joined by a superstar of the triathlon world. I've been a big fan for a long time, and just a few weeks ago, she took gold to finally become the newly crowned Ironman 70.3 World Champion. I am, of course, talking about Lucy Charles-Barclay. Lucy, thank you so much for joining me today. First off, congratulations on your incredible success this year. How does it feel to finally be number one after so many years of training and competing?
Oh, yeah. Thanks so much for having me. It definitely feels amazing. I'm getting used to being introduced as world champion, and it definitely feels good. Yeah, like you said, it has been a long time coming for me with so many second place finishes. So it definitely hasn't sunk in yet. But yeah, I'm kind of having a bit of a downtime at the moment and then hoping I can celebrate a bit more. So yeah, super happy.
Oh, so just for anyone that doesn't realize, you've just been you won the title, then you've been competing in Miami, no rest, and you've just arrived back in the UK because I read that you're doing this weekend's London Marathon for fun, you
Yeah, I
nutter.
must. I must be a bit crazy. I've decided to do the London Marathon this weekend. I've actually had not a lot of luck with the London Marathon. I've had three opportunities to do it. Two of them I was unable to start from injury, and then in
Okay.
2019 I actually had a stomach bug and still decided to race and only made it to halfway. So I'm hoping
Oh.
this year I'm just going to finish it. So yeah, that's the
Well,
main goal, to just go and enjoy it.
yeah, well, 2021 has been good for you so far. So I interviewed you back in 2019, and at the time, you had finished second in the Ironman Championships in 2017, 2018, and 2019. So obviously there was no competition in 2020 with COVID. What changed? Did did your training change? Did you up your training, or did everything stay the same and it was just your time now? What do you think?
Yeah, I think we kind of took all the positives out of 2020. We just had a bit of downtime. We found the fun of training again. It was always important to us to make training fun, but I think in 2020 we were like, you know what? This is our life. Let's make sure we enjoy every minute of it. So we just kind of did some more adventure training, just went out and mountain biked and did things that maybe
Oh,
aren't
cool.
like the perfect, yeah, they probably weren't the perfect kind of training for what we were doing, but they were keeping us fit and we were having fun. And then there definitely was a massive thing missing because there wasn't any racing. So there was
Yeah.
just a huge desire to grab every opportunity to race that there was really this year. So I've done some different things like the Olympic swimming trials. I've done some short course racing, Olympic distance racing, and just kind of grabbed every opportunity. So I think we've just been having a lot of fun. I've trained really consistently this year. I haven't done anything crazy, which I think has kept me healthy, injury
Okay.
free. And I've gone and won some big races. So
Yeah.
yeah, to top it off this year and actually get the world title, I definitely, going into the race, I definitely felt like this is my time. I did feel
Yeah.
that. And yeah, it all came together. So yeah, I was so happy.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So for anyone watching this who doesn't know, there's triathlon and there's all sorts of distances, right from sprint distances, which could be quite short and quite achievable if you're new. And then you've got Ironman. So for people that don't know, can you break down what Ironman is, what it involves, and the kind of disciplines?
Yeah, so Ironman is basically a ridiculous distance. It lasts for, well, it takes me around 8 to 9 hours to do it, but you have 17 hours to complete the whole distance. We swim 3.8 kilometers, cycle 180 kilometers, and then you do a full marathon to finish. So it's ridiculous. I always get asked by people when I tell them first time, it's like, oh, how many days do you get to do that? And it's like, no, it's a 1 day thing.
One day,
And
one day event with cut-off times. Yeah.
yeah, so it's pretty ridiculous when you actually think about it. And I remember it was 2014 that I signed up to do one for the first time. And my only goal then was just to finish. and I never would have dreamt that this was going to be my career and I was going to be one of the fastest in the world at that distance. So it's still kind of, I don't get my head around it, I don't think. So yeah, but that's what I do. So I am crazy.
That's what you do. It's bonkers. I mean, yeah, it's bonkers. But full of admiration that you can put your body and your mind through that. How did you, I've spoken to you before and I know, but how did you first get into the sport? I understand that you had a lot of energy as a kid and you were already very competitive. So your parents kind of chose to funnel that into sport. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think growing up, I was so competitive. I drove my younger sister, Holly, absolutely crazy because everything had to be a competition or a race or whatever. So when I was about 8 years old, my parents got me into swimming, which was probably the best thing they could have done. It was a way for me to burn off my energy, do competitive things, go and compete. And I did have a lot of success in swimming. And then it wasn't until I narrowly missed out on the London Olympics to do the open water swimming event that I decided that realistically I had lost the love for swimming to do another 4 years for the next Olympics. And so my now husband Reese and I decided to sign up for an Ironman just on a whim to see if we could do it. And yeah, and then kind of the rest is history. We're here now doing it as our job. So it has been a really crazy journey to this point, but definitely owe a lot to my parents for getting me into sport really early on. And yeah, they're really competitive with each other as well. We've learned over the last few years when they do part run together.
Oh,
so
really?
I think, yes. So I think I've got that competitive edge from them for
sure. You turned 28 3 days before the world final. And there was a line on your Instagram, which I loved, which said, the older you get, the better you get, unless you're a banana, which I thought was hilarious. But am I right in thinking that with long distance endurance events, it's often the case that you get better as you age? So, you started, how old were you? Like 19 when you first kind of got into this? So do is that the case, that as getting older, you get stronger, you get more experienced?
Yeah, they definitely say that. They say that you get more endurance with age, and they see typically in Ironman racing, you would peak in your 30s. So I actually did my first Ironman when I was turning 21. So I was like, this is my 21st year. I want to do something crazy. So I did my first Ironman. And then, I turned 28 just before the race in Utah. And I had said to a few people, the only thing I want for my birthday is a world title. And I was like, I'm going to go and get it. So, that's the really
Happy
cool
birthday.
thing. I think the coolest thing is, because I'm not yet 30, that there's still potential for so much more growth in this sport. And I hope I haven't reached my peak yet. So, that's pretty exciting. And I hope I can just keep improving.
Oh, brilliant. So, how many hours a week do you train, and over how many days? Just get into the bones of it. I mean, how do you even start? How do you break it down? You're training for 3 disciplines: swimming, running, and cycling. Where do you begin?
Yeah, it's definitely the ultimate balancing act, being a triathlete, having the 3 disciplines to train for. I also do quite a lot of strength training in my program as well. So on average, I would say I'm training between 20 and 30 hours a week. And that varies depending on what phase of training I'm in. I kind of find that my background's in swimming, so I actually do quite a fair amount of swimming in my program, but definitely nowhere near as much as I did when I was a swimmer, where I would be in the pool twice a day, every single day. So I swim about 4 times a week. I ride between 5 to 6 times a week, and I run 4 to 5 times a week as well. So there's a good balance of sessions there, and also would do about 3 gym sessions a week. So I pretty much train in 7 days a week, normally more than 1 session a day. And then we kind of just fix in rest days depending on how I'm feeling. So if I just feel super fatigued, then we'll add in a rest day every now and again. And generally on a week, my Monday and a Friday are like my lower volume days. So they're like a active recovery day. So I don't do nothing, but I have an easier day on a Monday and a Friday.
Yeah, to be clear, the last time I spoke to you, you said you had one rest day every 2 weeks, and you still did it on your rest day. You still did a swim and a strength session. So they really are active recovery days, aren't they? There's nothing sedentary about them.
No, I think I can't sit still. So I don't think I could actually physically have a full day off. And on the rare occasion that I do, I find myself like reorganizing my whole house because I just can't sit still.
So just we're not here today, but we're going to be showing a full breakdown of your training regime, cardio, strength, recovery, nutrition, for a feature in the December issue of Women's Fitness magazine, which is on sale November the 12th. But today is just more of a chatty day. Do you follow a training plan? And if so, I mean, I imagine you must. Who devises that for you, or do you do that yourself?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a combination, really. Up until March of this year, my husband was my full-time coach, and he did all of that. And then I think it was around April this year, we took on another coach called Dan Lorang, and Dan has actually coached Jan Frodeno and Annie Haug, who are both champions at the Ironman World Championships. So he's very experienced in what he does. But actually, the main reason he actually reached out to us was because he was interested in the idea that I really want to try and do the long distance triathlon and try and make the Olympic distance for Paris. So he was really intrigued by that idea. And he said, look, I would love to work with you guys. I don't want to like take over, but I feel like I could help you with this. And Reese and I have always been open to the idea of having experts come in. We've never kind of thought that we knew everything. We always want to learn. So he came in on around March this year and has worked with us. So he writes the full program, and then I still have Reese here day in, day out, seeing what I'm doing, and he can feed back to Dan, he can feed back to me. So pretty much now I just have two sets of eyes looking at the program that I'm doing. And yeah, I feel like at the moment it's working really, really well. And I have a lot of confidence in obviously my husband and in Dan as well. So we have a great team, and I'm excited to see where that's going to take us. And hopefully, who knows, I could be in the Olympics in Paris, and that would be obviously amazing, and it's definitely a big goal of mine.
So you still have that Olympic dream then, even though you became disillusioned with it back then, because you not qualifying the last time was down to just like not enough spots being there available, wasn't it? It wasn't that you weren't good enough. It's bloody hard, isn't it?
It definitely is. I think with the open water swimming, there just is one spot per nation, so it's so hard to get in. But even with the triathlon, we have a maximum of 3 spots in the men's and the women's, and it depends how well we do as a nation, how many spots we get. And we have so much strength and depth in Great Britain that it is going to be still super difficult to qualify.
Well, it sounds like you've got the right team behind you, and you're confident, and so you've got the right ingredients there. So Reese he's an athlete himself. He's your coach, as you said, he's your husband, and he's your training partner as well. So he actually kind of accompanies you around the world, because there's a lot of traveling with this kind of sport, isn't there? That must be great to have someone to be there with you, because long distance events, training for that, it can be a really lonely world, can't it?
Yeah, 100%. Like I could not do it without Reese there supporting me all the way. He does so much research into everything that we're doing. So leading into the World Championships, he'd planned the whole trip. He was like, I think we should go and base ourselves at altitude. I think this could be a huge benefit. So he looked at the location. He planned that we would stay at a certain height of altitude. We would drive down to do high intensity workouts at lower altitude, and then we go back up and do more longer sustained efforts up there. So he really had planned out the whole thing. And yeah, like you said, just to have someone there to train with who you bounce off really well with. We can be competitive with each other, but we also just have so much fun together. And actually, we just have the perfect kind of partnership in terms of training, coaching, and just having a great time as well.
Oh, fantastic. It's the dream team. If you don't mind, I'd just like to briefly, I mean, it sounds like you've got a really great support network. I'd just like to move on to mindset and mental health. Mental health in sport has been a massive topic of discussion recently for female athletes. Do you think it's important that people understand just what it is that any athlete goes through mentally when they set themselves these huge goals and challenges and face an enormous amount of pressure to perform and succeed?
Yeah, definitely. I'm really glad how much it is more getting spoken about now, kind of the mental health side of things. And it's super tough being an athlete. I think from the outside, it looks like a very glamorous lifestyle. We get to travel the world, we race and compete at the highest level. But actually, like you said, there is so much pressure there to perform. And if we don't perform, then that's it. That is our entire kind of livelihood. So we have to go and race at that top level. And last year was such a hard year for everyone, but especially as athletes, it was like our whole life was taken away.
Yeah.
So everything that we worked towards, it just wasn't there anymore. And definitely I know that I did struggle. I kind of was like, what am I doing? So that was one of the main reasons we decided to kind of just strip it back to, why do we do sport? We do it because we love it. We just enjoy it. We get to see the world. So we just decided to try and make things fun again and go and set ourselves silly challenges like, oh, we're going to go ride 100 miles on a mountain bike or something, and just pack some jam sandwiches or something and a coffee flask and see where we end up. So yeah, it was a really tough year, but I think we did make the most of it, and we just really remembered why we do it. And ultimately, you have to love what you're doing to do well at it. And we were just reminded of that. And I think even now this year, I've had some super high pressure races and environments that I've been in, but ultimately I've only done it because I love doing it. And as hard as it is, I try and just kind of block out what the rest of the world thinks and try not to care and be like, you know what, I love what I'm doing. And even if it goes badly, I've enjoyed the journey to get in here, and hopefully it doesn't go badly. And thankfully it all seemed to go pretty well this year. But I do really believe that's because we just stripped it back to the love of doing what we're doing.
Yeah. Do you think you benefited from that break over lockdown to just, I mean, did you chill out a bit? Did you, or I suppose just not having to plan so much just must have given you a bit more freedom?
Yeah, I definitely feel like we did chill out a lot. We really took the time to almost realize how far we've come in this sport in quite a short amount of time, which is something that when you're like, oh, what's the next goal? What's the next competition? You almost don't have time to be like celebrating a success before the next one. You're just on to the next thing. So we really did take the time to just reflect on what we've done together and how far we've come, and did let our hair down a bit and just kind of enjoy ourselves. And it did feel like you almost had a slight loss of identity because you're not in this normal striving for the next thing. But actually, I think the benefit has been this year that we have grabbed every opportunity that we've been given, and we've also taken the time to enjoy every success we've had this year rather than thinking what's next. So yeah, I think one of the biggest things one of the biggest things I said, like when I won the world title, was that I wanted to make sure I did enjoy every moment. And you don't know when your next race might be. You don't know when you might win again. So you want to make sure that every time you do win, that you are enjoying it and you are celebrating that success, because you have to.
Absolutely. You spend a lot of time traveling and away from home. So you must have to pack a ginormous amount of kit, because as you're not just, it's not just one discipline, it's 3 disciplines, and then just your life stuff as well. What is your vital kit? Like, what could you not be without if you got to the plane and you thought, oh my God, I've left this behind? What's your vital kit? Was everything vital?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when we traveled out to the US, we were going to be there for a month. So we had 3 bikes with us. I had my physio with us, so he had his physio bed. I had to bring I had to bring a wetsuit. I had to bring all my race equipment, and like you said, normal clothes. There just seemed to be so much stuff. And I remember when we were packing to come home from the Super League triathlon at the weekend, and I'd gained so much stuff as well. And I was like, I'm just not going to get all of this home. Like, I'm going to be charged so much for excess baggage. So it's very hard to be a minimalist as a triathlete. And I've never been good at packing light as it is. So yeah, it is very stressful traveling with all that stuff.
In terms of competing, what's your favorite equipment that you're using? What do you use for training? You still look what bikes are you using? What equipment are you using because you're not always out on the road. You do a lot of your cycling training stationary, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. So that's also something that I travel with, is my stationary bike trainer, so I can do indoor training when I go away as well. So, and that's pretty heavy. So but yeah, I kind of I have obviously a time trial bike, which is the bike that I use for St. George, but I also have a road bike, which was the bike I had to use for Super League, just because of the different formats. So I recently got given it's like a pastel pink road bike from my bike sponsor Cube, and they had designed it
Beautiful.
all for me with this is my dog Lola, but she's she's on my bike as well. So they've done a little mascot of Lola on the bike. So she definitely is always with me when I'm racing. And she's the one thing that I really wish I could travel with, because obviously she has to stay at home with my parents, but she's the thing I miss the most.
What is it that, just in case other women are watching you and feeling inspired, what is it about triathlon that you love so much? And why would you recommend it to other women?
Triathlon is such a good sport because it has 3 different sports. So you just have that variety of things you can do in your training. But also it's a very inclusive sport. What I've always felt when I've gone into triathlon is there is just a huge level of respect between all athletes, because it's such a tough sport. So if you're even on a start line, you've done a huge amount of work just to get there. So everyone is really respectful of one another. And also the great thing is that there's no one body type that does well at triathlon, because it's such a variety of sports. So anyone can do well at triathlon, and you've got 3 things that you could be good at. So it's kind of like, okay, you might not be the best runner, but you're a great swimmer, or maybe you just love cycling. So you've got the opportunity to have one part of the day where you might excel at, and then you've got another point where you can actually challenge yourself and have goals to kind of achieve. So that's one of the things I've always loved about triathlon, is there's always something that you can improve on. So it keeps you interested, and it's very hard to get bored, I think. So yeah, it's a great sport.
Yeah, and it's really accessible because there are just so many. There's age group categories so you can really start at any age, can't you? With quite small events. You came into it as a elite level swimmer. So just talking about competing now, being such a strong swimmer, it gives you a real edge, doesn't it? For people that don't understand.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think the biggest fear most people have when they do go into triathlon is the swim element of the day. And it is the most intimidating part, especially with it being an open water swim. You've got other people around you. So I was definitely fortunate that my background was in swimming. It almost gave me that little head start coming into the sport when I did. And obviously there's pros and cons to that as well, though, because being the strong swimmer means that I'm always leading from the start of the race. So in a way, it always feels like it's my race to lose because I am out front, and I've definitely got a target on my back because the other girls are chasing me down. So being a strong runner has its advantage as well, because you've got that part at the end. People are getting tired by that point, and then you might be able to catch them all up at the end. Whereas being the strong swimmer means it could be a day of getting overtaken, and it definitely was. When I first started triathlon, it was like, right, and burst out the water, and then it was just I just got overtaken all day long for the rest of it. So but that in itself was motivating. So.
Yeah, that gives you a focus. Like, God, if you're out in front and then you're seeing people going past you, that would give you the impetus to improve those cycling and running times. But I mean, it did you in good stead for the World Championships, didn't it? Because you led the whole way through, didn't you? I believe.
Yes, so I think this World Championships in St George was definitely my best all-round performance. I was actually the fastest on the swim, bike and run that day, which is something I've
Wow.
never done before. And the biggest thing for me was I've always had so many people doubting my run ability, and I just wanted to show the world that I am a strong runner. And that was the day that it all came together, and I actually had the fastest run at the end of the day. So yeah, I feel like a full rounded triathlete now, finally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It must be hard because I know that you've had struggles over the years, just even like turning pro, winning your you know, having the awards to be able to compete in triathlon, getting sponsorship. You must feel so proud of yourself now for persevering and just keep giving it a go.
Yeah, it doesn't feel that long ago that I really was like chasing for sponsors, telling them what I wanted to achieve, and then kind of thinking, well, who's this crazy woman that thinks she's going to do all these things? And just, yeah, it has been an incredible journey to get to this point, and really learning to cycle from scratch. Kind of, I always did run at school, but actually taking my run to where I really feel it had the potential for me to be a great runner, and I feel like I finally got there now. So it's been a really kind of steep learning curve from the beginning, kind of realizing that the approach to swim training, which is more is better, cannot be applied to things like running because your body will just break. So being smarter with that kind of training and just learning so much over the last kind of 5-6 years, it has been really incredible.
Yeah. And you had to be smart with your training because you came from a swimming background. You actually sort of picked up, you were quite injury prone, weren't you? Because you weren't used to that impact of because swimming is a non-impact sport. So you can't overtrain. You have to be really savvy, don't you?
Yeah, 100%. And that was where all my injuries came from in the beginning as a triathlete, was on the run, because my body just was not used to that impact. My bones had kind of spent the whole of my teenage years just being in water, swimming where there is no impact. So it really was a steep learning curve. And I think that's actually where strength and conditioning has played a massive part in my program, because I can go to the gym and get strong in there, and then I'm more robust, less likely to get injured on running. But actually my running performance is so much better just from being strong as well. So I'm definitely a big advocate for getting in the gym and getting strong. And that doesn't mean having to pump loads of heavy weights. I just do really kind of key exercises that give me the strength to be strong, but also run fast.
Nutrition. So yeah, how do you must have to eat an awful lot of food to fuel your workouts?
Yeah, so I actually changed my diet quite a lot this year. I've always had a healthy, balanced diet, but I have kind of struggled sometimes with kind of stomach bloating and painful stomach, and that's annoyed me in races before. So I decided to do like a food intolerance test this year, and found out that I am intolerant to quite a lot of food. So
wow.
So dairy was one of the main things. Whey protein I was actually intolerant to, which I would have after nearly every single workout. So I've decided to kind of cut that out. So a lot of my diet has now become kind of, I still can eat meat, but I was actually intolerant to beef. So a lot of my diet has become kind of vegan, but I can eat like chicken and fish and things like that. So I feel so much better for it. Like, one of the main things I've noticed is that my skin is clearer. I used to actually get really bad joint pain after, like, when I'd work really hard in sessions, my joints would hurt a lot. So I've had no joint pain since I've made these changes. So I think as a result of making these changes, my body just has so much less inflammation. And therefore I think I don't only feel better, but my performance has improved from making these changes. So definitely in the off season though, I will be eating some of those foods, because it's all my favorite foods I cannot eat. So
that, I find that fascinating though. And I find it interesting. I've been interviewing athletes for so many years, and it's really only recently in the last year or two that I find people talking about they're taking intolerance tests and the professional ones, there's lots out there, but they're finding out what works for them and what doesn't, and the impact that has on their performance is huge. And just also people don't really like to talk about things like bloating, but if you're not feeling comfortable, that's going to affect your performance.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, there'd be times where I would go out to dinner, I'd eat all of my favorite foods, and then my stomach would just be rock hard and so painful. And I'd be like, well, I really hope that's gone by the morning, or I'm just going to really struggle on my sessions. So it has made a huge difference. And yeah, it makes sense that it would. So yeah,
it does. Perfect sense. Oh, well, thank you for explaining all of that for me. What plans do you have for the future? You briefly mentioned Paris. Are you full steam ahead with training, or are you taking a little break?
So I'm definitely taking a little break, which will probably start after running the London Marathon this weekend. We will definitely celebrate winning my first world title. I think it's been a long time coming, so I definitely want to celebrate and enjoy that. And then I'll get back into training. Next year is actually going to be a pretty big year with the Ironman World Championships are actually in May. They are back in St. George. Then a month later, I am trying to be the first woman ever to break 8 hours for an Ironman distance, which is really cool. And then I'm hoping that the Ironman World Championships will go back to Hawaii in October next year. So I already have 3 Ironman distance races to do. And around that, I want to try and fit in some Olympic distance racing so that I can try and kind of increase my ranking points, so I can then start the process of trying to get selected for the Paris Olympics. So there is a ton of exciting stuff. It's quite chaotic for us to fit it all in, but I definitely wouldn't have it any other way.
Oh, well, I 1,000,000,000%. I wish you all the best with everything going forwards, and just well done you. Thank you so much for sparing the time to talk to us today, and good luck with Sunday, and good luck with everything going forwards.
Oh, thank you very much. It's been great chatting to you.
Oh, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.